let's get things started here this morning. So my name is Coach Brock Zevan, life coach, business coach, real estate agent in a DAD. I don't have my kids this weekend. I do not have them this weekend, so I'm going to be working a little bit. I do work on Saturdays when I don't have my kids. Today's a big double day for me, blessed and fortunate. Share one with you all, have it in the chat here. But I speak at 11 o'clock for Referral Mate. I am blessed and fortunate that they've asked me to speak on there. I'm one of the leading referral agents on there. I do over 100 referrals a year, and so they asked me to speak on what that looks like. So you're going to see that in the chat. So Jay and Tony, if you guys can make sure you guys have that in the chat. Then our main guest that we have here today on this Figured Out Friday, Coach Sinnona, he reached out to me. He was one of those amazing people. He sends me a message through Instagram, and as I just told you all, I have two Instagram like accounts that I didn't know I had, and it doesn't go to my phone. And one of my VAs, I think it was Tony, said, "Hey, Coach. They call me Sir. Sir, somebody reached out to you. They want to talk to you." I was like, "Okay, who is it?" And as I'm sure Coach has the same thing. Like you get a lot of spam, you get some crazy people. I didn't realize I have so many foreign people that want to. Well, I'll just keep it clean here, but it's just crazy some of the things that they send you. And I was like, okay, what do we got? And so I started to have a conversation with him, and I think the first time we talked was about 45 minutes to an hour. And we were trying to get up our time. I remember now he's like, all right, let's set up at 5. Like literally it was an hour long that him and I had a conversation. And that's why I tell you all, when you engage with people and network and reach out, you never know where the conversation is going to go. So him and I started talking more and more, and he invited me to his perseverance coaching that he has today. Amazing speakers all across the country today at 12 o'clock from 12 to 5. We're going to put the link here in the chat. Okay, we're going to bring it at the end, but he's like, would you share your story? Would you share the impact that you had? And that's when I know God aligns us up in so many different ways and so many different opportunities that take place. And so I'm very blessed and honored to have our guest here today on our Figure It Out Friday. So if we all can, please put some love, put some hearts, use these emojis, use these emojis on the reactions, put some 5 out there, put some hearts out there. Mr. Coach Joe Sinnona, good morning to you, brother, from ups. No, you're in New Jersey or New York?
Long Beach, New York.
New York. I knew you're up there in the Northeast. So good morning to you, man. Big day
Good
for you.
morning.
Big day
Good
for you.
morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, Brock. How are you? How are you doing? Or should I say Coach Brock? How are you doing?
Whatever way. I taught school for 12 years, so I was called a lot of different things. My favorite one is like I coached in a predominantly what would they call it? It was West Mech. So I was called the White Cracker. That's what they called me. The White Cracker is what I was called out there. So that was my I really enjoyed that time period because I got to meet just so many amazing students. And so, but good morning to you, man. Thank you for getting up early. We were talking about like all the different things. And for those of you who don't know, like when you put on events, you got over 250 people coming this afternoon, and there's a lot that goes on all before it. So thank you for taking time to be with us this morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. And good morning, everybody. I know it's not easy getting up that early. It wasn't easy for me to get up this early. I didn't sleep one wink last night thinking about the schedule that I've had for all this entire day of for me it's an inspirational day. It's something that's it's like an injection of it's like a vaccine that comes into your body and just fills you with the spirit, with the light of everything that we do and everything that I have, and all my being goes into an event just like a dam breaking. And I'm so excited about today because I have this show, I have my event with Brock Perseverance, and then I do a brotherhood of realtor men that get together and are vulnerable to each other. And it's a safe, secret space. So if any realtor, men here want to join me in brotherhood on at 5 o'clock, right after the event that
Wow,
I'm
you go
we're
right
doing,
into it.
we go right into prayer and then we end in prayer. And at 6 o'clock, I just drop and I surrender to my wife and children and I start being daddy. How's that for a day and
I
a
love it,
night?
man. I love it. I love it. Some people are like, wow. And as well as just like, that is our life. That is what we do. And we pour into people and we help people because many of us all have a story. And sometimes it's nerve-wracking, it's not fun, it's embarrassing. I remember when I first started I didn't talk about my drinking for a couple of years because I used to make fun of alcoholics. I'm like, what an idiot. How do you not control yourself? What a freaking moron. And now I'm like, oh, that's me. That's the person that I was calling. I need to look in the mirror. And we all have situations that take place. Before we get into some of your figured out moments, coach, tell us a little bit about, where you are today. Kind of give us a 10,000-foot overview, a quick little resume about yourself.
Well, I've been a real estate agent for now 36 years. This is my 36th year in business, and I've formed a speaking, coaching, and training organization in 2009. And I come from a background of teaching. I was a teacher in the New York City public school system for about a minute before I realized before I realized that life had other plans for me, and I was asked to either take a suspension for about a year or walk away from it completely. And I chose the suspension, but I never went back to it. And I think that was my road less traveled, which has made all the difference in the world. But it's strange how life throws you a whole bunch of lemons, and what you decide to do with it, whether you make lemonade, whether you suck them, whether you squeeze them, lemons tend to turn into great victories for yourself or great sour moments for yourself. So I've had just about every bit of goodness and greatness, and then there's good moments and bad moments as well. But it has made me very strong. It's made me the person I am today. And that is someone who wants to empower and wants to pour into people, into agents who to make them stronger. And that's my mission in life, uh, now and until the day I retire, is to help agents see that light and to take good care, take better care of themselves in general.
I love it. I love it. One of my favorite poets that you talked about today, The Path Less Traveled by Robert Frost. I love that analogy that you reminded me. Like I really enjoy that poem. And I wrote down here, lemons are thrown at you in life. It is up to you. You all will have a lemon thrown at you. It's up to you on what you do with it. And so I just love that story and that analogy of being able to understand. Like when I was writing down the lemons, I was just like, "The big lemon is a small lemon," but I feel like I got a lot of lemons being thrown at me some days, and it's up to you all on what you're gonna do with it. Now, you've had some lemons thrown at you. You've had some lemons in your life. Talk to us a little bit about some of those moments, some of those defining moments, some of those moments that you really had to figure it out. You really had to get a really, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep going on. I don't know about this. Share with us some of those if you don't mind this morning.
Well, I'll tell you, the wins have the background of struggles, right? So I was only 12 years old when I lost my dad. And I was 14 years old when I lost a very dear friend who was like a grandmother figure to me. And I worked in a church from 12 to 18 years old. And I remember one day being behind one of these shrines. They call them a shrine, and it was a gated shrine. And I remember holding the bars of the shrine behind the gate as I watched my friends go play softball. And I looked up to God and I said, "Why? Why have you imprisoned me here? I don't want to be here. I want to be with them. I want to play softball." And behind me, the shrine was a whole bunch of candles that, I won't get into the whole day to day operations of what I did there, but I essentially lighted candles so that people could pray, from a distance, passing by. And I was the light. I was the light to light those candles. I didn't realize I was the light because I felt I was in darkness. I lost two most powerful people in my life, two most powerful figures in my life, my father and my pseudo grandmother. And everything was dark. I wanted to take my life, and I did try to take my life. And I rarely tell this story because it was a very dark time for me. And all I could think of, as I was trying to take my own life and who would rescue me from there is that song by Elton John, that he sings about Marilyn Monroe and a candle in the wind and how they found her naked the next day. I said, "Who's gonna find this naked body?" That like changed my whole perception about killing myself. But I knew there was something. I knew there was something that I had to do. And the next day I walked into the library, and out of nowhere, in a self-help section where I was standing, this book comes flying out. And it was a book by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross called Understanding Death and Dying, because I was in such a grief moment. I had to figure it out, right? I had to, but I couldn't figure it out. Whoever pushed that book, or some spiritual presence pushed that book, it opened up like this. And I looked at it on the floor. I picked it up, and on one side was a poem by Dylan Thomas, "Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night." And on the other side was the 7 Stages of Death. And that's how I read the book. I kept going like this, opening it up whenever I would feel a moment of grief. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross became my very, very best friend up until the day she died. And the
Mm.
day she died, I was watching the news. My then girlfriend, who became my wife, Maria, she said, "What's wrong?" And I was crying because on the news it said Elizabeth Kubler-Ross has passed away at the age of 88. I was crying. And she says, "Did you know that lady?" I said, "Boy, did I know that lady, because that lady saved my life." And the day I decided to figure it out was the day I decided not to die.
Mm. Wow. Talk about a talk about a moment of figuring out, not of death. I want to go back to you were in the self-help section. How many of you, how many of you, I've done this, so that's why I'm going to ask this question. How many of you ever gone to Barnes and Noble or gone to, back in the day, the different bookstores? I can't remember. I used to go to, there was used to be two of them, two major ones, but Barnes and Noble right near me. How many of you actually walk through and go to the self-help section? Just kind of like walk through that aisle. If you haven't done this yet, I'm going to encourage you to do this. And I don't know, give you a better reason than what Coach just shared because you weren't in the kids section, you weren't in the history section, you weren't in the drama section, you weren't in anything else in that whole entire library. You go to the self-help section, and I was visualizing myself because I was looking at books too, and I was like, "Ooh, that's a good one. Wow, I didn't think about that. Wow, somebody wrote a book about that." And I gotta believe, Coach, when you look at the books, and correct me if I'm wrong in Barnes and Noble, but there's just not one book on that shelf. There's hundreds of books.
100. And again, I don't know what, nobody knew me there. And it was
Right.
just, it's like somebody pushed that book out and it just went. And I saw it. And I went and I said, "Oh, somebody pushed a book." And as I picked up the book was kind of speaking to me at that moment. It was, it was coaching me. And I always felt that way about Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, that she was always sitting next to me saying, "I can't fix this, but what I can do is help you understand this." And
Mm,
that's all I needed to understand, about death and dying, because there's a lot of people that they feel, they blame, they do this a lot. There's a lot of symptoms, but and most importantly, people want to kill themselves when they lose, pivotal people in their life like that.
mm,
So, for me, that was a defining moment. That was the spark that all I needed. And I realized that whenever people prayed, because remember, I worked in the church at that point. I saw that when people prayed, they prayed with their heart, and they cried. I'm a Catholic, and they cried in the church, and I felt their pain. And I said, you know what? Now I know why I was sent here, because I was here to light somebody's darkest, deepest moment. But if they pray in front of these shrines, I'm going to make them look like, mwah, beautiful. I'm going to make them look like, they could come to this safe place and pray and see as they walk by the light of Christ, to be in the light of Christ, to light that darkness. Whatever they believed, I wanted to be that light. And
mm.
that was the first figure out of my entire life, that kind of set me on this path to, you know what, I want to help people. And I still have that. I still always have that. I carry that with me every day.
I'm gonna ask a question to everybody. The men, you got to be a little vulnerable right now. You got to be a little vulnerable. How many of you have cried before over a situation, something happened in your darkest time period where it was heavy, it was really rough? Put a yes in the chat if you've cried before in some capacity. If you've never cried before, after this I just want to talk to you a little bit. Just want to talk to you about your emotions. But I say this because I never cried for a certain period of my life, because when I got emotional or things were not going the right way, I would drink. And so I didn't get like there was no when I first stopped drinking, I struggled because I couldn't handle my emotions. I was like, "Whoa, what is this? This is very overwhelming. This was a little hard for me." Now, the reason why I bring this up on what crying is, this is what God put inside of me to understand what crying does. Because when you said that, coach, I was just like, you know what God just did to you? That book was your seed. See, God gives us opportunities to plant a seed. He doesn't tell you to grow the seed. He says, I will take care of that, but I need you to plant the seed. And when he plants the seed, what happens is we start to reflect on ourselves and we get emotional and things take place, and guess what? We start to cry. Because the crying is the nurturing to water the seed. It's part of the process. Hence my shirt, trust the process. And when you can absorb that and understand that crying is just part of the process, the freaking shit storm you're in, the darkest time that nobody understands and nobody gets, when you're about to end your life, coach, God's like, you're ready now to be nurtured. You're ready now to have the watering done to you, which is the tears, which is to have the seed grow. And now you're growing and now you're blooming. And he says, I'll take care of the rest. Because all the stuff you do now, the people you impact, thousands of people now are affected by you. And you at one point were about to end it. What does that mean to you when God puts this gift inside of you?
Um, it means that, it feels good. It feels, number one, good, because you clearly understand that you're a servant of the Most High. You're a child of the Most High, but most importantly, a servant. Yeah, I'm serving, uh, someone who's greater than me, and I'm here not to be, you know, Christ Himself, but Christ-like, and I'm here to help people and to represent. And if you don't represent, how can you, look at God in the eye and say, hey, you know what? I did everything I could, with what I had, and I tried to move people in the direction that you wanted them to move in. And I think each one of us is called to doing that. And some of us, ignore the calling, or there is a calling out there. I realized there's a calling.
Mhm.
That was my defining moment, that I realized, because God had called me to do something. He didn't want me to die, because he said, you know what? I've walked the path. I've seen your future, and I've seen the lives that you are going to transform with just being who you are as a person, whether you help that person, with a couple of bucks during your life, or you help this person get off drugs, or you help this person go from someone who of a thief, you know, to
Mhm.
someone who has grown and excelled into an architect. I mean, these are true stories that I just told you. And I always think of George Bailey and It's a Wonderful Life. And the angel tells him, no, no, you weren't around to affect their life, George, because you were dead. And
Mhm.
my wife incidentally calls me George Bailey, and I'm like, I'm no George Bailey. I'm just here as a servant.
Mhm. I love it. I love it. I say a prayer each morning, and I say, God, where or who do you need to share my gift? Where does my gift need to be shared today? Who can I help today to help grow? Is it in real estate? Is it in your personal life? Is it addiction? Is it a divorce? Like, where is it, wherever my pain was, that I can help somebody with something else? Now, as we transition here, looking at the time, you got hundreds of people coming today at this perseverance. You have amazing leaders, speakers. Trey Fullen's been on the show. Many of you know Ricky Carruth on the YouTube, and many other speakers. You didn't wake up 2 weeks ago when you came up with this, or a month ago when you came up with this, and say, you know what? I'm just going to call these speakers, ask them to come on and do a webinar, and I'm just going to invite a bunch of agents, and I'm sure everybody's just going to come right in, right? So you didn't just hit success today. You've earned it, you've grown into it. But now that you're at this platform, now that you're continuing to strive, what are you trying to figure out today? What does that look like for you?
I'm just trying to help people figure themselves out, really, where they're going. And perseverance today is going to just give them that thrust, that mindset, that perhaps they need to reset their mindset. And I tried to do it with many voices. Many voices can illuminate and change maybe the direction of where people are headed in this business, whether they, persevere in their lives, in their business. That's why I called it perseverance, because we must keep going in quarter two, in quarter three, in quarter four. We must keep going and pushing ourselves to be the best version of ourselves. But we can't do it unless we persevere, unless we push it, unless we, wake up grateful, unless we just change who we are as people. And that's why, when I conceived of this little idea, I didn't think, to be quite honest with you, you just don't think. You feed it a little bit, and then you keep feeding it, and then it just grows. And when I saw that number hit over 200 people, I looked up to God and I said, wow, we're doing it. We're going to
Mhm.
transform lives. We're going to, all of us on the speaker stage, you know, there's going to be a message for everybody here today.
I love it. I love it. It's so true. Jay, make sure we put his stuff in the contact information, the chat. Boy, Jay's like right on it. She just did it. Make sure we get that link for perseverance. So my famous question, where's Michelle? My famous question I ask every single person that come out here after we before we conclude is, obviously we're gonna have your contact information. We'll talk about or we've already shared perseverance, but what's the one thing, everything you've experienced, the near death, the book, in the self help, your crying and watering of your seed, the gift that God gave you, everything there. What's the one thing you want to share us with as we leave today?
I would like to keep going, like George Bernard Shaw once wrote, I want to be thoroughly used up when I die. I want this to be the legacy of who I am and who I represented for this real estate community, for speakers around the world, is to just keep inspiring yourself, keep wondering what is next for yourself. Just wonder, just there's an avenue. I took an avenue at 12 to 14 years old. I took a road less traveled at you know 19 years old when I got into this business. All my roads have been less traveled, and yes, they have made a difference. And I've suffered, the hard times. Don't think this has been easy. There's been struggle, and I want you to know that the struggles make you stronger, very strong. And as you meet people, and you see that they are either your friends or they're your, sometimes they could be your enemies, just to be out there present and intentional for yourself, for others, for your family. Don't miss a step. And when
Mm,
life hands you lemons, as my friend said in his keynote once, and I never forgot this, he said, when life hands you lemons, you don't make lemonade, you suck them.
mm. It's so
That
true. I love it.
you make whatever you can with those, but make a
Mhm.
difference. Make a difference in someone's life, and build on your successes always.
Mm. So I love it. I love it. Guys, we put the event in the link there, register for today's Perseverance event. We got amazing people that are speaking at. We'd love to see you guys there. I'm going to say on Coach's behalf, we know that there's things that come into your life. And we know that there's like, well, I didn't have this plan for 4 hours to be able to be there. Just come when you can. Come when you can, take a look at it. We don't get upset as speakers. I think Joe's speaking. I speak at 2:30 or something like that, and or 2:40, and then we got some other heavy hitters that are speaking. Really, the entire time, Coach is hosting it, so you get to hear him and some of his messages that he has here today. So, guys, put some five in the chat. Put some love in the chat that we have for Coach, and thanking him for sharing and being vulnerable and opening it up. So put some fives in the chat, put some hearts in the chat for us. And thank you so much for being here, Coach, and taking time out of your morning to be here.
Thank you, Brock. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody. Have a wonderful day and a very, very enjoyable time at Perseverance. You could always catch me on Sinnona Speaks, and we do a lot of methodologies and a lot of good coaching there as well.
Awesome. Guys, we put his Instagram in there as well. Guys, thank you guys so much for being on here. For those that watch the recording, thank you so much. If you're not on my YouTube channel, check it out. Hit the subscribe button. For all of those, I want you to have a phenomenal week and be safe, be healthy. God bless you all. I'll be back Monday morning, 8:15 Eastern time with Mondays with Maxwell. I'll be your host. Can't wait to see y'all. God bless you. If not, see you this afternoon at Perseverance. See ya.